Hi everyone, welcome back again to my YouTube channel. My name is Osereme and today's video is inspired by this beautiful dress as seen on Stitches by IC. Ours was made with a lace and a crepe fabric, I think, and I decided to make mine for some reason with African print and a crepe fabric for the corset part. Now, if you would like to use lace and all of that for yours, I'm going to show you the type of lace that you can use, but for mine, I decided to use African print and a crepe fabric. So let's get started with the pattern drafting tutorial. If you would like to make a lace version, you will need a Chantilly lace and a crepe fabric that will fit whatever color of lace you are working with. So like I said before, I'm going to be making use of African print, which is what I have here. You need about 2 to 3 yards of fabric for the African print, and then for the crepe area, you need just about 1 yard or 1.5, depending on your size. So now let's go ahead and draft out our pattern. So I'm taking this side as the center, and then this other part is going to be serving as the top of my pattern paper. So I'm going to draw a straight line across. Now this straight line here is the shoulder line, so I've just labeled it here SL. Now from the shoulder line, I'm going to take all the other body measurements. So I'm going to measure from my shoulder down to my bust point. Now after marking your shoulder to bust point, mark your shoulder to under bust measurement. Now which is what I marked here. Now next measurement I'm going to take is my shoulder to waist in front. Now, because I'm taking a side dart here, I'm taking my shoulder to waist measurement in front and the back separately. My shoulder to waist measurement in front was 15.5, and my shoulder to waist measurement at the back was 14 inches. If you don't know how to go about these measurements separately, just take your normal shoulder to waist measurement in front, and whatever you get, take about 1.5 inches away and use that as your shoulder to waist measurement at the back. So now I've already marked my shoulder to waist here, and the last measurement I'm marking here is the shoulder to hip, which I marked at 25 inches. So now I'm going to draw straight lines across all the points that I marked. So now this is our bust line, this is the under bust line, this is the waistline, and then this is the hip line. So now let's go ahead and add all our body measurements. On the shoulder line here, I'm going to come in by 3 inches from the center of my paper for my neck width, and I'm just going to mark it here. I'm not going to be drawing out the neckline yet. Again, from the center, I'm going to go in by half of my shoulder measurement, which is 7 inches, and I marked it. Now from this 7 inches point, I came down by 1 inch, and this is for my shoulder slope. So I'll connect from this 1 inch to the neckline that I came in by earlier, which was that 3 inches point I marked. So now next thing I'm going to do is to get my armhole depth, and for your armhole depth you are going to divide your bust measurement by 6 and add 1.5 to what you get. So when I do that, I get 7 inches. So from my shoulder slope, I marked 7 inches, and I'm going to draw the 7 inches point across as well, and this new point that I'm drawing across now becomes our chest line. Next, I'm going to connect a straight line from the shoulder slope to meet the new chest line I just drew out. So do exactly what you see me doing right now. And once you're through with this, get the midpoint of this new line. So I'm just going to get the middle of this new line here, which is at 3.5. And then I'm going to go in from that point by half of an inch. Now back to the chest line, I'm going to divide my bust measurement into 4. So divide your bust measurement into 4 and make a mark. Now you're going to be joining the 3 points together from the shoulder slope down to the midpoint you got and to the point you just got on the chest line, all 3 of them together to give you your armhole curve. So now once that is done, I want to just use my marker to draw out the shoulder again to make it more visible. And now this is what we have. Now the next thing I'm going to go ahead and do is from the center on the bust line, under bust line, waistline, and hip line, I'm going to go in by half of my nipple to nipple measurement. I'm going to mark it all the way down, and I'm going to be connecting all points together with a straight line. So now once you're through with this, the next thing you want to do is on the waistline. Make sure you're doing this on the waistline. Go out on both sides of this line by half of an inch. This is for your dart. Okay, so because of the type of blouse I'm making here, I'm just going to be connecting the dart all the way to the top. So I'll connect it to the top on this point here and connect it to the bottom as well at the end of this line. So this is going to give me my dart. So just go ahead and do exactly the same thing you see I've done here. Next, divide the shoulder here into 2 equal halves and connect a straight line to meet the bust point. Now this is going to help with our shoulder darts. Now next we're going to work on the neckline. Remember that this dress, it looks like it had like a V neckline. So from the
neck width that I came in by earlier, that's this top of the shoulder, I'm going to come down by the V neckline. So I took it a little bit below the chest line like this. So you can maintain yours at the chest line, or you can go down to the bust line, or even below, depending on what you want actually. So now next I'm going to go ahead and add my body measurement. So on my bust line, I added my bust measurement divided by 4. On the waistline, I'm going to mark my waist measurement divided by 4, and I'm going to replace my dart. I realized I marked it wrongly before, so waist measurement divided by 4 is here, and then I measure my dart and added it back. So that's what I've done there. Now on the hip, my hip measurement divided by 4. So now I'm going to go ahead and join all the lines together from the bust line down to the waistline, and then from the waistline to the hip.
Now the next thing I'm going to do is to tighten up the under bust area so that I can get a bustier for the cup part, so that the cup area is not looking flat, especially because I'm working with an African print. So I'm going to be doing a tightening of 1.5 inch. So I divided 1.5 inch into 2 equal halves, and from my dart legs on the under bust line, I went out by that measurement I had after dividing. I went out by that measurement on both sides, and I'm taking it all the way down. Now once I'm through taking it all the way down, I'm going to connect curves to meet the top of my bust point. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to get my side dart, and your side dart will be your shoulder to waist in front minus shoulder to waist at the back. So for me, it's 15.5 minus 14, and that is 1.5. So from the bust line on the side of my pattern, I came down by that 1.5, and I connected it all the way to the bust point, even outside of the body, and I marked the area where my side dart is, where I'm going to be cutting off. So now I'm cutting through the bust line, and after which I'm going to cut through the shoulder all the way to the bust point. Make sure it doesn't cut off entirely, okay? So once you're through with this, you're going to cover off the dart just like you see me doing like this. So once you're done covering it away, you're going to use a sellotape or whatever tape you have to just tape it down so that it doesn't move. If you notice that one side has become shorter, just go ahead and blend it in, just like I've done here on this side. So once you're through with this, the next thing you're going to go ahead and do is to create the curves for the cup. All right, so now on this side from the under bust, I'm just going to be using my curve to create a curve from the under bust to meet my neckline like this. All right, and then on the side, I'm going to just connect from the bust line, from the under bust line here to the side. Okay, so something like this. Now once you're through with this, the next thing you're going to go ahead and do is to now replace your dart and add your body measurement. So on this chest line here, I'm just going to measure the little darts that I have here. It's about 1/2 inch, so I marked 1/2 inch on at the side, and I'm extending my armhole to meet that 1/2 inch. Now please note that the first dart we had in here is no longer going to be used. Now I'm going to be working on the darts we have on the marker lines. Now on the waistline, from the center, I came out by my waist measurement divided by 4. Now I'm going to measure the marker to marker for the new darts that I have and replace it, even though it goes outside of my bodies. Now on the hip line, I'm going to mark my hip measurement divided by 4, and I'm going to measure my new dart as well, which is about 2 inches, and replace it even though it goes outside of my bodies. All right, so now once you're through with this, go ahead and join the new side. So now once you're through with this, the next thing I want to do is from the waistline here, I am going to be coming down by about 5 inches, 4 inches, it depends on you. So I decided to come down by 4 inches here from the waist, and I'm going to be connecting a curve down to the hip line here to give us that curve shape that we have on the under bust area, right? So now before you do this, you will need to fold in the dart. So I'm just going to just fold my paper here, else it's not going to have a proper curve, okay? So just fold away the dart like you've seen that I've done here. It's actually very simple. And then you can now connect your curve nicely to the side, to the hip line. All right, so now I'm going to be using this curve, this armhole curve here. It connects very nicely, so I'm just going to go ahead and connect it from this point here all the way to the hip, just like you see me doing like this. So now I have that very beautiful curved shape for the waist area of this dress. So now once you're through with this, you're basically done drafting out the front pattern. The only thing I want to do here now is to just tighten up the over bust a bit. So I'll just come out on both sides by about 1/4 inch on the armhole area
on the shoulder area, sorry, and I'm just going to connect them to meet the bust line. So I'm going to be trimming off this little darts opening here, and also this area here. I'm going to be cutting off all of this. So now that's it for the drafting out of the front pattern. I'm going to go ahead and cut this out now. Now for the underbust area, I just want to tape these areas together back so that when I cut on my fabric, it will not be two pieces. So I just taped it down with a tape, and that's basically it. So this is all for the front pattern basically. Let's go ahead now and draft out the back patterns. So I have my pattern paper here, and I'm going to start by drawing a starting line at the top, which is the shoulder line. Now from the shoulder line, I came down by my shoulder to bust point measurement. And then next, I'm going to take my shoulder to waist measurement at the back. Remember, I told you guys that it was 14 inches, so I'm marking it here. So I'm going to go ahead and draw straight lines across. So I did my shoulder to bust point, which is what I'm marking right now, drawing across now. And then I have my shoulder to waist. You do not need to mark your shoulder to under bust at the back because there's no under bust at the back, as there are no breasts at your back, okay? I've gone ahead to label all the lines, the shoulder line, the bust line, and the waistline. Now you're going to refer back to your front pattern. So from the waist, measure down to the hip. Now, so that you use that exact measurement for the back pattern. You need to do this because we took a side dart. If you don't do this, the back pattern will be longer than the front. So I measured, and it was around 8 inches from my waist to hip on the front pattern. So I just marked it here on the back, okay? So I'm going to go ahead now and draw a straight line across this part as well. So I went ahead to label it the hip line. So once that is done, the next thing I'm going to do now is to draw out the neckline for the back, and I'm just going to go in from the shoulder line here by 3 inches, and I'm going to come down by about 1.5 inch or 1 inches depending on what you want. So I ended up using 1.5 inch, and I'm going to just use this to connect a tiny round neckline. Now I don't know what the neckline of the back of this dress look like, but I just want to do a tiny high neckline, so I'm just doing a round neckline here. Now from the center, I came out by my shoulder measurement divided by 2, which was 7, and came down from that point by 1 inch, just like I did on the front pattern, and now I am taking it to the top of the neckline. Now once you're through with this, from the shoulder slope, you're going to come down by your armhole depth. Remember, on the front pattern, we use 7 inches, so that's what you will use at the back as well. So once you're through with this, I'm just going to go ahead and draw out the armhole area just exactly as I did it on the front pattern. So I'm going to draw a straight line from the shoulder slope down to the new line that we have, which is now the chest line. And then I'm going to get the midpoint of this line, and then take my bust measurement on the chest line, and then join everything together to give me my armhole. Like I said, it's exactly the same thing I did on the front pattern. So now the next thing I want to do is from the center here on the bust line, I'm going to come in by half of my nipple to nipple measurement, mark it on the waistline and also on the hip line as well. Once that is done, go ahead and join all the lines together with a straight line. Now, once you're through with this, go out on both sides of this line by half of an inch on the waistline. Remember, that was exactly what we did on the front pattern as well. So go out on the waistline, as you can see, and then go ahead and use it to create your dart, just like you see me doing like this. Once you're through with that, the next thing you want to do is to add your body measurement. So on the bust line, I marked my bust measurement divided by 4. On the waistline here, I'm going to mark my waist measurement divided by 4, measure the dart and replace it back. And then on the hip line, you're going to mark your hip measurement divided by 4. So once you're through with all of this, just like you did on the front pattern, you're just going to go ahead and join all the sides. So now once you're through with this, we're going to get the corset area of the back. Now I'm going to be bringing in the front pattern, and I'm going to align the waist exactly on the waist of the back pattern, just like I'm doing in this video. So once you're through with this, you're going to mark where the yoke for the front started. So I'm going to now take my back yoke neckline from here. Like I said, I do not know what the back of this dress look like, so I'm just going to work with whatever I feel like for the back. So now this upper part here now will now be the yoke for the back. Now the next thing I want to do is to determine where the curve is going to start from on the back. But before I do that, I just want to tighten up my dart a little bit. So on the hip line, I came out on both sides by 1/4 inch at the end of my dart, and then I'm connecting it to meet the dart leg on the waist. So I'll take this up as well, just like you see me doing like this. Take it up to the neckline, that's the yoke neckline, and I'm going to be cutting this out. Now, before I continue, there is no need to add any allowance to the waist, but we need to on the hip line. So I'll just measure the darts that I've taken on the hip and replace it back. So to do this, just connect from the waist back to this new point. Now, you will also still need to use the front to just make sure that the front and the back is exactly the same. So now once I'm done drawing this out, I just want to arrange the whole side to make sure that everything looks more visible. Now I brought in the front pattern again, aligned it on the waist just to make sure that everything I'm doing is the same. And I noticed that the front curve is even more than the back. So I just marked the front curve into the back pattern. And now I'm going to extend my waist curve to meet that curve I had in front, just like I've done here. And from here, I'm going to connect a curve into the center back. Now, before you connect your curve, just like we did in front, we will need to fold away the dart. So I'm just folding it out like this. Now, this is not a total beginners friendly tutorial because it's quite advanced, okay? So this is for people who are already advanced in sewing to an extent. As a total beginner, you might just struggle a bit. So I folded away the dart, as you can see, and I'm just going to curve now to meet the point on the hip line here, and then I'll take this into the center back like this. So now I am done drafting out the back pattern. As you can see, I am going to go ahead and cut this out now. So for the corset part of the back pattern, I decided to just take away the dart so that when I'm cutting on my actual fabric, I will not need to be joining the pieces again. So I'm just folding the dart away. You can hold this with a pin or a sellotape or whatever you have to just hold it in place so that when you're cutting, it's not moving away. So for me here, I'm just holding it down with pins, as you can see. So these are the two back pieces, the body part and the yoke, and then the body part and yoke for the front. So I went ahead to cut out on my actual fabric, and for the yoke area, I used my African print, and for the corset part, I used my black crepe. Now, I added at least half an inch stitching allowances all the way around all of my patterns. And for the back pieces, as you can see, I did the exact same thing I did on the front. Now, you will notice on the center back that I had enough allowance for zipper because I want to add a zipper to the center back of this dress. And when you're cutting the front of the black part, make sure you are cutting it in a fold. For the skirt part of the dress, I just cut out a pencil skirt, a long pencil skirt. When you're cutting out your skirt, you don't need to add a dart to the waist area. In the next video, I'm going to show you guys how to go about making it in a way that it has that curve even on the skirt part. So we're going to be stopping this video here today. In my next tutorial, I'll show you guys how to go about the sewing. Thanks for watching. Bye.